Please be seated, councillors. Please can I ask you to switch your mobile phones off or on to silent, please? Before we move on to the formal business items of the agenda, it is with great sadness that I have to announce the sad deaths of Councillor Chris Foley McCormack and former Councillor Sylvia Sintai. Councillor Foley McCormack was a Labour councillor for the Normanby ward. She was elected as a councillor in May 2015 and had served as a member of this council since that time. Former Councillor Sylvia Sintai was also a Labour councillor for the South Bank ward. She was elected in 1987 and served as a member of this council until 2015. Our thoughts are with their families and friends. Please will members join me in a minute's silence as a mark of respect. Thank you, councillors. Please be seated. Would any councillors like to pay tribute to these two fine councillors? I will start with Councillor Sue Jeffrey. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's not many months you can say that you've lost two of your friends who have been your friends for 40 plus years. But that's what's happened in this case, in terms of losing Sylvia and Chris. Both have been friends of mine and my family for all that time. Some of you will remember Sylvia, some of you served with Sylvia on the council. We both got elected, would you believe, in 1987, and some of you wouldn't have been born then, but you know, that's how long. I stayed on for just the 4 years, but Sylvia, of course, stayed on for 30 plus years, serving the community of South Bank and serving this council both as a cabinet member for transport and environment. And some of you will also remember that character Kevin Nyland. She served as deputy to Kevin Nyland, who was also a long-standing chair, I think, in relation to transport and engineering. She was a wonderful woman. She worked really hard in everything that she did. She was committed to this council and her work. And when I found out just the day before yesterday that she'd passed away, I couldn't have been more shocked, because I was with her just the other day. And you know, it's one of those people that has made this council what it is over the years. And it's so sad when those people start to pass away. I mean, we lost Dave as well, of course, just the other month. In terms of Christine came to this council at the other end of her life. She came to this council in 2015, and I don't think she ever expected to be a councillor or wanted to be a councillor. It was one of those occasions when, you know, there's a vacancy and your arm gets forced up your back, and I'm sure we're all aware of those circumstances. But she took to it like a duck to water. She really enjoyed representing the people of Normanby. And you know, the feedback that I've had is that the people of Normanby really appreciated her as their councillor and felt that she was doing such an excellent job for them. Before she became a councillor, of course, she was a volunteer in her community, as well as holding down a job and bringing up 3 sons, and she worked, she volunteered in the credit union, I think right from its inception, didn't she, Sandra? And she was always there and part of that. You know, again, all I can say is that we have lost another person who's contributed so much to Redcar and Cleveland, the work of this council and the community of South Bank. And I'm just really sorry that both have gone. And I would like to pass on my condolences to both their families. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Jeffrey. Councillor Brown.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Just want to pass on the condolences to both families of Sylvia and Christine from the Labour group, and to personal friends like Sue Jeffrey. My own personal experience of Christine, since 2015 I was elected as part of the same group. She was a lovely person, never shied away from being forthright with the opinions, but always didn't belittle opposing arguments, and always tried to understand and was always supportive of everybody in the Labour group. Testament to Christine, over the last week or so, we've spoke to hundreds of people in Normanby. She never self-promoted or wasn't one of the councillors that would, you know, be thumbs up on Facebook, but every single resident we spoke to knew of her, spoke highly of her, and I'd had some interaction with her in the past. Sylvia, unfortunately, I never had the pleasure to work with. However, people like to speak very highly of her. So I'd just like to pass on the condolences of the Labour group to both families. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Brown. Councillor Kay.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'm afraid I didn't know Christine very well, but I would like to pass on my condolences to both families. I did know Sylvia quite well in a sort of combative way. She made a mark on local history, really, because there was a split in the... I'm not trying to get at you, by the way, I'm just going over the history. I was in the... I'll confess, I was in the Labour Party at the time. And I've lost all this side now. But there was a split, and I don't know whether to say infamous, because he's passed away too. We'll say the famous Arthur Seed stood as an independent, and I'm pretty sure it was Sylvia who defeated him. Were you on at the same time? Yes, but I knew you, I think, before, so it stood out in my mind that Sylvia had knocked off the great Arthur Seed in South Bank, where he poured all the money and it didn't do any good. But talking about money, this was, of course, in Langbar's day. Bruce Mackenzie and I were, when she became reasonably rapidly, she might have been chairman of Highways, and then after Kevin Nyland, and then she certainly became cabinet member for Highways. And my colleague Bruce Mackenzie and I were always asking for improvements, and she actually, times don't change very much. The answer inevitably was, there's no money. And what do you say to that when something, there's no money? She used to be a very diligent cabinet member, examining every site, going around. I think Ralph Ferguson was the engineer at the time. And I always remember going out to the road between Lockwood Beck and Castleton. You'll have been along there. And there's a very difficult corner called Folly Corner, quite appropriately. In those days, if you went and examined the verge, there were bits of cars and windscreen wipers and bits of glass, plastic all over the place, because people were, you know, having accidents there. Anyway, the people of Castleton, it's in Lockwood Ward, by the way, inside our boundaries, they came to me, could you do something about it? And I remember Bruce and I met Christine and Ralph out there, and yes, she did do something about it. For once, she didn't say there was no money, and we got one of those non-skid surfaces on. not so much England, but the people of North Yorkshire on the way home and on the way to work every day since. So it wasn't all no money. When something really needed doing, she pulled the stops out to do it. And I like Councillor Jeffrey, was sad to hear and shocked really to hear of her death. I haven't really kept up with her recently, but I just felt she was one of those people who you think is going to go on and on and on. So I've got fond memories, touched with a little bit of irony with regard to Sylvia, but she will be sorely missed.
Thank you, Councillor Kay. Councillor King.
I sadly didn't know Sylvia, but I'd like to pass my condolences on to her family, and obviously to Councillor Foley McCormack's family. I had the great privilege of meeting her family to help them say goodbye to her at her funeral ceremony, and we sit in these chambers and we know each other and what we see in meetings and everything else. But it was an absolutely wonderful to hear about her work as a community champion, that she was the founder and did all the hard work for the longest serving community bank in the whole of the North East Credit Union. And I got to know about her as an employer, a self-employed person, her own business with major contracts, community champion, all she did for the people of Normanby, Titty Bottle Park and everything else. But most of all, I got to learn about her as a friend, a mother and a grandmother, and the stories were truly heartwarming. She raised 3 fantastic sons who were a credit to her, and it was an absolute pleasure to meet them, so condolences to the family.
Thank you, Councillor King. Councillor Lanigan.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Absolute condolences to the family. Chris was lovely. I only knew Sylvia for a short time, but she was, I think they were both ladies. I never had any issues with them. And I look at Redcar and Cleveland, no matter what our political persuasion is, as a family. And when we go out of this council chamber, it doesn't matter what views or opinions we have, we look after each other. And Chris said to me, and I was quite shocked when I heard that Chris had died, because I'd been talking to her a few weeks before, and she said, you know, Mary, I wouldn't do your job. And I went, of course you would, and because this is what this is about. And she was telling me about how she got into it, what she did before for community, and Karen, of course, did her funeral, and we were all in awe, really, of what she'd achieved all her life and how caring and everything she was. And she'll be absolutely greatly missed. And you miss her sitting here in the council chamber. And so it's from all of the councillors, I would think, condolences to the family from all of us. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Lanigan. Councillor Nightingale.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I don't think I would have said anything but for Councillor Jeffrey reminding us that she was elected in 1987, and so was I. And at the same time, of course, Sylvia Sintai was elected. And it is a shock to find out that she is no longer with us. I'm not going to go into the history of when we had no overall control and all the briefing groups and all the razzmatazz that we had at council meetings from 87 onwards. But one thing that does stand out to me is that Sylvia Sintai did actually give us a lesson in Hungarian, how to pronounce her name. But the crucial thing is, and I think this also applies to Chris as well, is that whatever the political party these people belonged to, they were still respected as individuals, and for their dedication to the residents, and the people that they served were well served by them. And it is a very good example of public service to the local community. I did actually know Chris's husband very well, because he was very much involved in the council, and he was also very much involved in bringing equal pay to the officers of the council. And for that work that he did, I think we should be commending him as well. And obviously, everybody here, I'm sure, would send their condolences to both families, and hope that their grieving is not too long.
Thank you, Councillor Nightingale. Does anyone else wish to make any further tributes? Okay, thank you. So we'll now move on to the agenda. Agenda item 1 is apologies for absence, and I've received apologies from Councillor Eyre, Berry, Cawley, Dowson, Fisher, Moody, Turner, Waterfield and Wilson. Do we have any further apologies?
Please.
Thank you, Councillor Brown.
Councillor Lax Keeler and Councillor Chris Jones, if I hadn't, and Councillor Graham Jeffrey might be late. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor King. Thank you. Agenda item 2 is to receive declarations of interests. If councillors have a declaration of interest, the green form is being circulated. Will you complete it, please? Agenda item 3 is to confirm the accuracy of the minutes of the meeting held on the 13th of October 2022. Can someone move them, please?
I move those, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Lanigan. Seconder, please. Thank you, Councillor Nightingale. Agenda item 4 is to note the attendance matrix. Councillor Watts. Could you stand, please? Thank you.
I did submit my apologies last time, but I also added the reason, which isn't on the matrix. I just had eye surgery and I couldn't come out.
Okay, we'll have the minutes amended and the matrix as well. Thank you. Agenda item 5 is to receive any announcement for the Mayor, the Leader of the Council or Cabinet members. I will go first. An award has been received for the participation in the Queen's Baton Relay. Can I ask Patrick Rice and Councillor Westbury to come forward to receive the award from myself? I would like to thank everybody involved in the Remembrance services and parades throughout the Borough of Remembrance weekend. There was a fantastic turnout from the public in Redcar and throughout the area, and it was good to see the local community, British Legion and Council came together to ensure that everything went smoothly. Thank you to those who attended and supported my charity night at Cocoa and Rum, raising over £870 towards my 2 charities. Thank you. It is a tradition that the Mayor leads out the charity Boxing Day dip in Redcar. This year, I intend to join the dippers to raise funds for my chosen charities. My costume has been purchased, and I hope you will support and sponsor me in my endeavours. And lastly, I will be switching on the Redcar Christmas lights this Sunday, and as this is the last full council meeting before Christmas, I would like to wish you all a very Merry Christmas and happy and healthy 2023. Thank you. Any announcements from the Leader of the Council?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We're all well aware of the finances, what is happening within BUK at the moment with central government, and I just want to take this opportunity while I can. We've had 11 years of austerity, and the situation is getting worse. I want to thank all the councillors who came so that we could have a look at our budgets going forward, and I'm sure that you're well aware that local government haven't been awarded very much at all this year, and it actually seems as if what we're getting out of the ministers at the moment, then you put that on the residents of your borough. Well, the residents of this borough have had enough, I think, and this is what I'm getting from them at the moment, and we're going to have to do something in order to, this is not just about balancing the books here, and I absolutely understand that we've got statutory services that we've got to honour here, but I think that we've been shortchanged, and I have wrote to the Prime Minister. I've also wrote to the ministers down there and spoken to our MPs about this. Unfortunately, I'm not getting anything back at the moment, and it seems that the local councils are on our own. I had a meeting with the 12 northern councils, and we're all in the same position, and it's impacting really on children's services and adult services, where we've got at the moment, and things that we cannot control because they are statutory. But we're doing the best we can, but the people who are going to suffer are the people out there, and we're doing everything we can as a council to try to support them. This isn't just the people that we looked after through COVID, or people who were out of work, or whatever it was. It's gone to the next level now. So we've actually got people, families who are working, who are now starting to struggle. I understand, having watched the Minister and the Prime Minister down at Westminster, this is going to go on for 23, 24, and maybe into 2025. Well, that doesn't bode well for our residents going forward. I understand, because we didn't get anything about levelling up, and it's coming in on the 7th of December, where before it always looked as if it was going to be okay, because we didn't get the first round going forward with that. Now I'm even doubting that, and I don't know where that's going to go to. Fortunately, for Redcar Town Board deal, the finance was already signed, so it wasn't a case of that being pulled back. So we've got that. But with the cost of living rise that we've got at the moment, and the cost of all the products that are coming in, then we're going to manage it. But I wanted to take this opportunity to thank all of you who come forward to help us going forward, to see what we can do with the budget, and to mitigate as much damage out there as we possibly can for the residents. Yesterday, of course, and I'm quite sure that you're all aware, was quite a sad day, and the blast furnace came down at Redcar. I drove along the coast road this morning, and it's not there, and it's been there for decades. My dad was a steel worker, but he was at Skinny Grove. Of course, we've still got some steelworks. We've got Skinny Grove, and that's thriving at the moment, and it's had quite a bit of money pumped into that, and we've got Lackenby down there. But it's a sad day for the men and women who worked on there and worked extremely hard on that site. That was hard, rough work that they went through. There was a lot of people down there yesterday as the blast furnace came down, and a lot of people quite sad to watch that go, as I'm sure that we all were. We've got Tees Works there at the moment, and we are hoping that jobs will come in. We've got SEA on site, there's talk of BP and everybody coming on site for the next generations, but we've got to make sure that that works going forward. I'd like to thank all residents and volunteers, of course, from the Royal British Legion, who contributed towards the remembrance service for our servicemen and women, and served with great honour. We have a tradition within Redcar and Cleveland of showing respect to the fallen, and I'm glad to say this year was no exception. People turned out in their hundreds right across the borough. And members, of course, will be aware that we celebrated our centenary this month. The first meeting of Redcar Borough Council was held on November the 9th, 1922. And a huge demand for tickets, and around 2,000 members of the public attended, with hundreds more outside. Over the years, of course, different councils were formed and eventually became the council we represent today. They were all the centre of society and provided help for those in need. Throughout all the challenges for local government, that remains the case today, and I'm sure all members are proud of their support that they give to their residents. Last time we met, we were on the brink of opening the Regent. The first few weeks have been hugely encouraging, with brilliant ticket sales and a really positive feedback from the public, and I look forward to our residents having the opportunity to watch the best films at an affordable price that we've got. Good also to see that the two businesses moving into Barclays Bank at Loftus, that is progressing. Restoration work has brought the building back to life, and it will benefit the community. Christmas is still some weeks away, but I'm getting quite excited because I'm a bit of a child. I love Christmas. But the celebrations will start very soon, with lights switch on and parades across the borough. There's extensive plans to mark the festive season, organised by both the council and many volunteers out to cheer on our communities. The past few years have been very challenging, and this year is no different, but I'm sure people will appreciate the opportunity to celebrate and spend time going forward. Members, I think you're all aware that there was to be a motion coming into council today from Councillor Lockwood, and it was about looking at how this council operated going forward. Councillor Lockwood has withdrawn that motion, and I spoke with him and Councillor Wells and Councillor Barnes, and a council came down from Richmond and LGA to talk about this. It was actually felt that something this critical going forward needed to be looked at in depth, and that needs to be done. There is different options, and I've never worked in the old system that was here at the council before, but there's variations to that. And when we actually looked at Richmond is a small authority without any children's services or anything like that, with a very small budget going forward. And so they've actually asked if we could have a look going forward, if a group can be put together across the council to see what it would be like, any changes that we could put in, and see where we go with that, and then bring that back to council. So if you could do that with them, that would be great. Let's have a look. Let's see if we're operating the best way that we can. There's all different options without going to a committee system. There's different, I know Hartlepool have got that at the moment, but there's pros and cons on each side of this. So I think in order that we're going to change anything, we need to have a look and see where we go with it. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Lanigan. Do any Cabinet members have any reports that they wish to? Councillor Nightingale?
Just want to take this opportunity to thank members for attending and contributing to the members' briefing on our finances. And I'm sure that this will help in a pretty dire situation. A matrix has been produced following the contribution of the members, Mr. Mayor, and the ideas that have been put forward are and will be taken into account. I just want to reiterate what the leader has just said, that we very much welcome ideas from all members of the council in order to deal with probably, I think I can safely say, an unprecedented financial situation for the council. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Nightingale. Okay, we'll move on. Agenda item 6 is to receive any announcements from the Managing Director. John, do you have any announcements?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have no announcements on this occasion.
Thank you. Agenda item 7, we don't have any questions from the public, so we'll move on to agenda item 8, to receive the reports from the portfolio holder. And this meeting, we're going to receive the report of the Cabinet Member for Economic Growth, Councillor Chris Gallagher. Councillor?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Before I make my report, I'd like to congratulate the officers for their continued and consistent and professional work, which is evidenced in this report. This work has been produced over very difficult circumstances and resource constraints that we're all well aware of. Furthermore, all departments have benefited from the leadership, clear and professional messages and direction of the Assistant Director, who has led the team by example and encouragement to achieve a great deal of many good things for which we all should recognise and appreciate. You'll also be pleased to know that I won't read it verbatim. You've all had plenty of time to see it. It's been well circulated, but I will paraphrase where necessary to fit within 10 minutes or even less with a bit of luck. Okay. I'm proud to share with the members the excellent progress we are making in the delivery of economic growth portfolio. In the 8 months since I last presented to the Borough Council, there have been challenges to overcome. However, through staying true to our corporate plan, commitment to improve the physical appearance of the borough and enhance prosperity, we are really beginning to see the benefits of all our hard work. Be that through new facilities opening or spades going in the ground of other projects, supporting major planning applications or helping local people into work, we are making a really positive difference. As members will be aware of, this portfolio incorporates the work of a number of independent teams, including place development, planning, business support, adult learning and skills, and strategic assets. As such, a number of the achievements highlighted are very much a product of the whole team. It's also to be recognised that the work we do within the economic growth portfolio is very much the product of a wider team. This includes key partners, funders, businesses, and most importantly of all, our residents who actively engage in much of our work. Our progress to date has been quite spectacular in terms of the constraints we've had with COVID-19. And I'll highlight particularly the Regent Cinema, which has been a bone of contention for some time, but it must be mentioned that this project was started in March 22 and it's brought in on programme and under budget. There won't be many opportunities to say that again in the future, possibly. Shortly thereafter, we began negotiations with our new operator, Merlin, and I'm pleased to say that they opened on the 21st of October this year with rave reviews, selling 4,600 tickets in the first 9 days. Quite an achievement. Given the difficulties of construction during the global pandemic and securing Merlin as our operator in a time of increasing obstacles for all our businesses, especially hospitality, I am particularly proud of the accomplishment. And in June, the Regent won Building Project of the Year at the Construction Elegance North East Awards. And hopefully, very soon, we'll also get that award on the national level, which we should all take pride in, the fact that we've got a building now that's recognised for its value. Not quite the same for a previous building on the seafront some years ago. Okay, Gisborne Town Hall, conservation work to Gisborne Town Hall completed March 22. And this project was not only about the rescue and repurposing of a heritage building, but also provides a focal point serving the East Cleveland with the ability to be a visitor and economic generator for the High Street. Historic England have now removed Gisborne Town Hall from their at-risk register. Again, another noteworthy success. The Loftus Future High Street Fund goes from strength to strength, and we're delivering this £11 million project across a number of activities, all of which are progressing in the right direction, although there has been the occasional hiccup. Not down to us, I may hasten to add, but to our utility provider. This should when it comes to fruition, finally, will enhance Loftus in a way that hasn't been enhanced for many, many years, if not decades. And the people of that area should hopefully appreciate the work that's going on to achieve that on their behalf. The town deal, Redcar town deal, I'm also pleased to report that progress has been made in the delivery of £25 million Redcar town deal. Whilst I'm a board member, I must highlight to the town deal board is externally chaired and is made up of a variety of stakeholders, including the council, local member of parliament and businesses. Together though, we are beginning to make the town investment plan a reality. We've already delivered the Clean Energy Education Hub as our first element, and now over the next coming months we'll see more and more of these activities and functions to the town deal start to develop. We've now achieved total approval for all the funding through our submissions to government, so now we're in a situation we have the full funding package with us, which will enable us to progress without any further impediment to bring that to a successful conclusion. Under the area growth plans, we regularly update scrutiny on this progress, so many of the members will all be well aware of what we're doing there and how we're achieving our ends. It's a testament to the team that alongside the marquee projects highlighted, securing the £6 million refurbishing of Redcar Station, construction new facilities at Courtham, including areas of adventure and golf and parking, delivering the initial car park improvements to Saltburn, extra 34 places at Catnab, and Skinny Grove visited car park, wider Skinny Grove access and connectivity enhancements have started on site with the purpose of supporting investment at the Land of Iron, previously called Cleveland Ironstone Mining Museum. Come to levelling up, I won't go too deeply into this. We'll all discuss this over a number of opportunities, and we hold our breath with many things that the government are talking about doing, and look forward to a successful outcome for both the Redcar constituency bid and the Middlesbrough South and East Cleveland bid. Hopefully we'll find out fairly soon as to whether they go forward as we hope for. Teesworks, as reported previously, regeneration work Teesworks has the potential to create up to 13,800 well-paid jobs, with the boundaries largely within Redcar and Cleveland, and as such the council has a key role to play in making this happen. As well as representation on the board through the lead of the council, the team is working hard to make the vision of the site a reality. Of particular note in recent months, the planning team quickly and efficiently managed the application of Sea Wind Factory, which will create hundreds of jobs. The team is also represented at the Teesworks Skills Academy, helping to ensure residents are connected with the jobs which we are creating. Skills and employment, we've got a decrease in the number of claimants, which obviously indicates that we're actually doing something within that portfolio to reduce the numbers of people claiming. Therefore, hopefully, more and more people will find their way into the world of work. I won't go through the figures, but they're all highlighted there if anyone has any questions for that later. And business support, following a couple of years dedicated to COVID response team. The team is back on the patch, listening, liaising with businesses, providing advice, support, and helping them to access to funding. In addition to this, the team has hosted and attended a range of events as well as to secure inward investment. By way of example, as reported to the scrutiny at Q2, the team had engaged with 237 clients, including 92 pre-start, 125 existing businesses, and 20 potential inward investors. And as you'll see from the list below, the business support team is very much embedded in the business activities of this borough. And we continue, as you'll see from the Ambassadors Programme and all the other activities being undertaken, gaining real traction with the business community. And they think in terms of engaging with us as a first port of call rather than the last port of call, which indicates that the team has value and utility. Our regulatory services are probably the unsung heroes. People think in terms of planning and control has been our panel, the visible side of people's applications for extensions, etc. But underneath all that, our regulatory services are actually fueling the capacity of Tees Works and everything else that we do in this area to enable those jobs to come in. The team works very, very quickly and responds very agilely to needs of inward investors and businesses who come into the area. And they've been congratulated on many occasions by those inward investors. So I'd like to thank them for all the work they do in the background, in many cases unnoticed, but not unregarded by, hopefully, the members of this chamber. In conclusion, as indicated in the introductory paragraphs, we can be proud that we as the council are making a real tangible difference across the borough through the work we are doing with the economic growth portfolio. We are regenerating and shaping communities. We are supporting people to get work as well as being an enabler to inward investment and development. It is particularly satisfying that we have recently been able to open some attractions that the public are already enjoying. I look forward to more of it as our work continues to take shape. It's also important to be honest and transparent after the context we are operating within. The current economic climate makes the delivery of large-scale economic growth projects more challenging and fundamentally more expensive, which will something we as a team will work hard to mitigate as best we can in the coming months, as it is a risk to our progress. The imminent announcement of the successful Levelling Up Fund bids does, however, provide a real source of optimism, and I look forward to keeping you all up to date with our progress. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Gallagher. We have a period of 10 minutes or longer at my discretion for questions, and it will be in the format of a question and answer. Can I just remind councillors that their questions should be succinct and relate directly to matters within the report. Councillor Brown.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just like to thank Councillor Gallagher for his report, and well done for not reading it word to word. Did really well there. If I'd just like to start on a positive, the Regent Cinema. I, along with lots of other residents, got a little bit impatient, shall we say, for progress. But I took my daughter and one of her friends a couple of weeks ago, and what a fantastic experience it was. A little bit more expensive, but in the reality, you know, to maintain it and to run it, I understood paying a little bit more, but it was still, you know, affordable to take a couple of children, much more than Cineworld. So well done to the council officers and everybody who worked on that. Okay. If I can just go back to the report, it tells a very good story, Councillor Gallagher, and I appreciate it is difficult circumstances. We all know the budget constraints. The thing that disappoints me a little bit is, as the government are telling us all we're in recession, the cost of going shopping, for instance, I went to Tesco's last week, my joy at the ground when I got to the end of the till. We all know the cost of living.
Councillor Brown, I didn't want to do this, but could we have a question, please, not a political statement? Yeah, of course we can. Yeah, okay, it was just within the context. Sorry, Mr. Mayor. What I would have hoped was a little bit more devil in the detail, which leads on to my questions. For instance, Redcar Town deal. Now, it's great that Mary said at the beginning that we'd got this money, and you've made reference to it. But is it the full 25 million and not the 25 quid as is suggested in the report? How much have we had to date? What is the next payment? What's the inventory of payments? Is this 25 million? The reason why I'm concerned is because the MP was in the press recently sort of suggesting that nobody had ever promised us 25 million. And that's one of the reasons for my concern. So my questions around the town deal are, how much have we had to date? When's the next payment? And when will we receive the full amount? Second of all, the levelling up bids. I appreciate yourself, along with the rest of us, levelling up bid or political confetti fund, I don't know what you want to call it. But just wondering when we might get a response to them bids, if you've been given any timeline. And then if I could just refer you, my last question, Mr. Mayor, if I can just refer you to Tees Works. A resident, a former borough councillor, recently wrote to me regarding a proposed development of park and ride that will encroach on the Cortham Marsh. It doesn't make any reference to that in this report. I'm just wondering if you could give the meeting an update
on that park and ride and its encroachment into Court of March, which is, of course, as a councillor that lives adjacent, it used to be in my ward before the boundary change, is very much of a concern. Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Gallagher.
Thank you, Councillor Brown. Councillor Gallagher.
Yeah, I'll do your first and your third question. I missed your second one, so if you can repeat that in a second. Regarding the Redcar Town deal, at the moment all our paperwork has gone forward with the government. There's no further requirement for us to draw down funding. That's all been approved. We'll draw down that funding as and when the projects require it. As to the payment schedule, I'll inquire as to what that is. However, as I already mentioned, that the Redcar Town deal is effectively externally chaired, and therefore we underpin its regulatory needs, advise where necessary in terms of officers, but we as such don't control that aspect of it. But I see no problem in finding out for you the actual schedule of those payments. It's safe to say the monies have been approved the full value, and it was a bit more than £25. Question two, the park and ride facility, obviously from what you're talking about there, it sounds though it's a planning issue, because obviously if planning permission's been approved, then it's obviously been discussed. You know.
Councillor Brown, do you want to refresh the question?
I'm just saying it would be a planning issue, but there is no planning in for the park and ride at this moment in time. So as and when that comes in, that will become an issue, if that makes sense.
Well, I've certainly been named as a consultee along with Councillor
Brown, it isn't a debate.
Yeah.
What was the other question that Councillor Gallagher has?
I just wanted a clarity, because I haven't had an answer to my question, Mr. Mayor.
What you want, park and ride?
Yeah, certainly. I've been named as a consultee, so as some of the neighbouring ward councillors, so it must have gone in, and regulatory does fall under you, Councillor Gallagher. So
I'm not disputing that. What I'm saying is that I'm not aware of any planning going in for it. But
I don't think I can recall it being in the report, actually. Yeah, so it's not relevant, Councillor Brown. The question should have been on Councillor Gallagher's report. If you have a question in relation to planning, I'm sure you will address it in another matter.
Thank you.
Councillor Gallagher, have you answered the question?
Yeah, as I say, I believe the person in question is not a member of the council that made the statement regarding the park and ride. As to your consultation, I don't know where that's come from, but I will inquire with our planning department and get you an answer as to whether we've had a submission, which is possibly not the case, in which case it may be a third party has been organising the consultation as an external survey rather than our planning department asking residents to comment on an application. But we'll get to the bottom of that one. Just to confirm that, because we've had a couple of dates, but at the moment we're looking at the 7th of December. But that's subject to change, like most of the things the government are doing at the moment.
Thank you. Councillor Massey.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thanks, Councillor Gallagher, for your report. In the report, you mentioned the excellent council-funded projects that exist in Gisborough, Loftus, Redcar, Saltburn, Skinning Grove, Cotham, etc. My question as a ward councillor for Eston is clearly going to be about Eston. Members will be aware that the Levelling Up Fund has gone in. It's in the report, as Councillor Gallagher has just said there. We hope to hear back in December. So my question is, while we all hold our collective breaths for success in those two bids, but particularly for me, for the Eston bid to be parochial as one of its ward councillors, I have two questions. Question one, what happens if we don't get it? What's the plan? Question two, what happens if we do get it, but as the previous Levelling Up Secretary, who was a local MP, said, that Levelling Up bids cannot book the cost of inflation, what happens if we can't deliver what we set out to deliver in an inflationary world where everything's going up by 10%? Will the council meet any shortfall should that be the case? So they're my two questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Massey. I appreciate your questions, and unfortunately I didn't bring my crystal ball in today, so I'll just have to probably make a best guess at this. If it does happen, then obviously it's planned out, as we've already discussed over a number of times and opportunities. excuse me, to map out what we're going to do. If the money doesn't go, like everything else, the distance, then we will have to do what we've been doing all along with our project since the inflation started to bite us all, and that's we'll have to value engineer, adjust where we can to bring in the product that we hope to bring in, and it may be slightly adjusted as we go along. But ultimately, the core benefit should be deliverable. We hope that inflation is not going to bite us for years to come. Hopefully it may be peak and drop in middle to back end next year. And of course, with the projects we're talking about in Eston, there will be a planning phase. That won't be a 5-minute operation, as you appreciate. So we will have a period of time to catch our breath, as it were, and hope that the inflationary pressures drop to the point where the monies we're given will actually meet the need. That's if it happens. If it doesn't happen, again, is another situation. You know very well our status and our promise on Eston Baths. As to the precinct, then we'd have to look at that again, and it all depends on finance. Like everything at the moment is predicated on what monies we've got and what we can achieve with what we have got. And I think it's fair to say everybody in this room will probably that little bit lighter in their piggy banks at the end of this year than they were last year. And the council is no different in that respect. We will have problems to deal with for all sorts of reasons. None of our making, but unfortunately the system we operate within is the one we have, unfortunately. And but we'll all try to do our best, because as you rightly point out, the people of Eston are next on the list to achieve some benefit, much like Redcar, Loftus and anybody else that's achieved some improvements recently. And as I am a resident, as you are, I'm looking forward to that as well. So some self-interest there as well. Hopefully that's answered your question.
Thank you. Councillor Pallister.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Gallagher, for your report. My first question, the leader and the cabinet member for resources mentioned the recent budget meeting and the possible overspend of 15 million, and they also spoke about the impact that will have on local residents who we all represent. So at a time of increased demand on public services and 10 years of austerity, we all know that one way to try and help this issue is looking at economic growth. So my question is, because I can't find any information which I would like to see, is how current and future planned regeneration projects are going to contribute to the council's budget pressures going forward. And my second question does relate to the cost of living, because I really was struck in your report that no mention of this and the impact it's having on local businesses such as the hospitality sector. And many local businesses are relying on the Christmas trade to get them through, but will struggle from January onwards, with the possibility of some losing businesses they've worked for their whole lives. I'm not saying that you as cabinet member has all the answers, but what message does this give to our local businesses who are worried about surviving for much longer when the cabinet member for economic growth fails to add even one paragraph on such an important issue? And my question is, what plans does the cabinet member have for economic growth to help local businesses survive the cost of living crisis? Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Right, as I already mentioned, business support is engaging with businesses at all levels. It may not be highlighting hospitality here, but we do engage with hospitality on a regular basis, and we listen to what their problems are. And that team works to try and enhance what they're trying to achieve and the problems that they encounter. But we haven't got a magic wand or a magic money tree, and unfortunately, we can offer advice and support only insofar as we can actually sustain it. And as I've already mentioned, the pressures we are facing with our budget constraints, we, like everybody else, are seeing prices going up and up and up. but the monies we're getting to achieve the aims that we're setting out aren't. So I've already alluded to that in terms of the economic growth. Looking forward to the economic growth, I think the potential, even with all the problems we've got for economic growth and jobs, is very, very strong in this area. What we need to do as a council is to make sure we create every opportunity for those jobs to actually manifest themselves to the people of this borough to give them a better outcome. That's what we are here for. We're here to make the borough better. And I hope everybody else in this room will be working towards that one end, because a better borough benefits us all. And hopefully the cost of living and those problems and issues will be dealt with by other departments other than the economic growth. But if economic growth comes in, as we hope it will, then people back into work will actually be in a better situation than they are currently and in the past, as we've experienced with the loss of our indigenous industries. And hopefully these new sunrise industries, as they come in and come on stream, will provide those better outcomes, both for the cost of living and the energy crisis that we're all encountering at the moment. But I shall speak to our business support group on your behalf, Councillor Pallister, to see if they can address any more issues. But I think although this report, covers a number of pages, it's quite a wide-ranging service portfolio that we cover, and it's difficult to put everybody's everything in here. But I will speak to the business support and see if they can do something towards those hospitality businesses, and make sure that people can at least, afford to go out and drown their sorrows, shall we say. Thank you.
Thank you. We are well over our 10 minutes allocated for this agenda item, and I have 3 councillors listed: Councillor Sue Jeffrey, Councillor Hannaway and Councillor Thompson. I'll be taking no more councillors in relation to this debate. So could I call upon Councillor Sue Jeffrey, please?
Yep, thanks very much indeed, Mr. Mayor. I've got 2 questions, but just a point of clarification to start with. The planning application for the Park and Ride site went live on the 2nd of November, and consultation closes tomorrow. So I know that because I'm the ward councillor and I got the planning application. So perhaps you need to catch up on where planning applications are, Councillor Gallagher. I want to add on to what people have said, really, in relation to and what you said as well, Councillor Gallagher, about the potential for economic growth being very strong in this borough. Everything that your report says suggests that's the case. But what your report doesn't do is in any way analyse the health of our local economy. It gives me no information at all about the impact of inflation, energy price increases, the cost of living crisis. And as the leader and others have just said, our budget situation is dire. We need to know how it will improve, and we can't depend on government grants for that. We have got to grow our own local economy to bring in income to enable us to fund local services going forward. There is no assessment in here at all from you about how that might happen. So, I absolutely applaud the fact that we've got the Regent Cinema, and I think it's great that we're investing in the Redcar Town deal.
Councillor
And
Jeffrey.
I, like you, sorry, yeah, I'm coming. I'm
Yes,
keeping
please,
my fingers
appreciated.
crossed for the Levelling Up Fund. But you have provided us with no evidence that you understand what impact this is going to have on our economy, and that is the issue for me. So could you tell me, please, my first question, when we are going to get a proper assessment of our economy, the growth it will generate, and how the proceeds of that growth will fund our services into the future? So that's my first question. My second question, I didn't expect to have to answer it today because I actually sent it you by email a few days ago, and it was in relation to the press release on Arlington Chapel. You'll recall that we're spending £500,000 of Indigenous Growth Fund, or a bit more, demolishing Arlington Chapel, having purchased it. Originally in the Loftus Town Deal plan, it was for new social housing. There has never been any proposal for new social housing being brought forward, so basically we're paying £500,000 for an empty space. I have in my ward a probation office that has been standing empty and derelict for 2 years, that's equally unsafe. the pavement has been so overgrown, that you can't, yeah, I'm coming.
Come on.
It's so overgrown that it's going to have to be replaced. Can you tell me when South Bank is going to get some Indigenous Growth Fund to put that particular building right, and indeed all the other derelict buildings right across the borough that don't seem to be getting the same attention at all? Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and apologies.
Right, your first point, inflation, cost of living, I would have thought that it was fairly evident to us all as to what the cost of living is and where it's going. You don't need me to add the fact of our costs are going up the same as everybody else's. It's been highlighted to scrutiny many, many times as to the cost of living and how it's impacting on our projects, which is my remit to that. Economic assessment, well, I'll have a look at that, but I don't see what you expect me to do. I don't know what. Well, he's already smiling, but again, what do you want me to do? I can give you an assessment, yeah, but that's my assessment based on the facts I've got, yeah, and those facts can change tomorrow. So
it isn't a debate. Let council. Let.
Yeah.
Councillor, can you just
It's
answer
rhetorical.
the question?
You don't need to answer it.
Well,
yeah. Yeah.
Can I remind both of you, it isn't a back and forth debate.
Okay, regarding Arlington Cemetery, I didn't receive your email. If I'd received your email, I would have answered it, and I didn't receive it. Right. And it's been well discussed within the constraints that we've got as to the danger that building presents. And the building you referenced to in South Bank, I don't believe we own it. It's owned by a third party who lives in London. Is that correct? Oh, I know it's correct anyway. Yeah. So we shall look at giving you an economic assessment, but I'm not quite sure where I will draw that information from. If I draw the information from government sources that are detached from the situation as we are. Maybe the mayor, Mr. Houchin, will have something he can reel off. I don't know which businesses are coming in until I'm told. So how can I make an assessment on things I don't know about?
Thank you. Councillor Hannaway.
But it's good that you've created another 34 spaces at Catnap car park in Saltburn. Unfortunately, it's not as many as could have been created. And of course, each extra space brings in more money to the council, and that's precisely the proceeds of growth, as well as helping local businesses as well. I was particularly hoping for more spaces for camper vans. There's a large area of grass there that wasn't used for the car park, and that seems quite odd because a few years ago the edge of that grass, which gives onto the beck, was stabilised with big rocks so that the car park could be extended across it. Wasn't that a wasted opportunity for growth in terms of council income and also helping local businesses as well?
I'm well aware of your question. We've had this conversation face to face down at the Catnap, and I explained at that time the criteria around the arrival of 34 car parking spaces and all the issues associated with it. So, somewhat after the fact now, but you were consulted at the time, as were the other ward councillors, and this was why the number and the design was arrived at after consultation with yourselves. It may not meet your criteria now, but unfortunately it is built, it is being used, and yes, potentially there may be some drawdown in what was potentially available had we put extra facilities down there. But we are where we're at. We are where we are, and unfortunately it is now built, and the question is somewhat hypothetical now because we've built and finished. There are more car parking coming, as you know, which hopefully will generate revenue, and we're also working on Marine Parade with a view to that also being a revenue raiser. Hopefully you'll be supporting that as a revenue raising facility and an improved facility to your residents when we start to deliver that project. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Before I bring in Councillor Thompson, can I just remind councillors that I think we would all like to hear the answers that Councillor Gallagher's giving, and also the questions. I am getting a little bit distracted by speaking from various sections of the chamber. Can you refrain from doing that, please, so we can all hear clearly what's happening? Councillor Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd just like to return to the question of what benefit all this capital investment that is being made is actually going to bring to the borough. It is not clear, I think, to the average member what metrics we use to evaluate the capital investment. So my questions, Mr. Mayor, are going to seek to try and clarify how we can better understand the merits of the investments that are listed. What are the benefits going to actually be to our local economy? So in the report, we're advised that there are something of the order of 13,800 potential jobs coming in T-Sport. There is no guidance as to what sector they're going to have a demand on. And therefore, the first challenge that we need to find answers to is what training needs to be in place in order to address that demand. If we look at the number of persons unemployed on the register, Mr. Mayor, you will see that that is of the order of 3,000. Even if a very large percentage of those persons were to be employed, it would not even touch the surface of the capacity of jobs demanded. So the job filling provision is going to come from migration, is it not? Migration from within the northeast. So the question then is, what benefit is that going to bring to our economy in the borough, where we have an aging population, we have a tremendous demand for social care workers that is not being met. So where is the education provision that is going to address? What are the metrics? So do we use net present value to evaluate our capital spend, or is it simply to address an aspiration that we think might improve the borough? So there is a lot of work to do, and I'm expecting today to have answers to all of those questions. But I do think we, as a borough, Mr. Mayor, need to sit down collectively and look at what our strategy is, how we evaluate the economic
Councillor
return
Thompson,
for all our
I'm going to
capital
push you.
investment.
I think you've asked
So
a
I
question.
would ask, therefore, that we convene an arrangement of forum to address all of these issues so that we are better able to address the value of the investment we're making and the return that this borough will get from it.
As regards the 13,800 jobs mentioned, we are, as you are, somewhat at the behest of those jobs when they come and they arrive. We are making progress at the moment, and we're engaging with the training and development agencies, whether that's the college or others like TWI, to ensure that they are set up to facilitate the needs. We've already conversed with Sea Wind to ask them about what their needs are, and we're now passing that through our employment hubs, etc., to make sure that people are channeled into those jobs. But we will be aware as and when those jobs start to materialise as to what the need is, and what we're trying to do across not just the borough but across the wider area to create a better training offer and make sure that all the jobs that people hopefully will be offered are being catered for in training. But you rightly identified that the number of unemployed are not going to fill all the vacancies, but of course we've got an outflow from our educational facilities which hopefully will also endear those individuals to stay in the area, improve their qualifications and gain some of these jobs. But it will be a balancing act over a number of years. It won't be a one-year solution. So I think, given that the schools are getting better reports, both primary and secondary now, hopefully we will have a stream of candidates who will take on further skill sets to be able them to move into the job markets that are being created in and over a passage of time. But you're right, we need to engage and to see where the profit value is. But we can't really do that until we have a nominated business coming in that talks in terms of jobs and employment, and then we can see the net worth of what we're doing. It's very difficult to work out where the net value is when we don't know what the businesses we're talking about. We see a wind, we can see what they're doing and where that benefit's going to be. But another coming onto that site that we're unaware of, it's very difficult to assess what their needs are and therefore what the benefit is to us, other than possibly rateable value and benefits to the exchequer of the council. But the benefit really needs to be in the jobs that will be ongoing over the next number of years, which will enrich the individuals, but also the prosperity of this area. But I will talk in terms of the value assetting and see if we can come up with a plan or a formula that we can equate to most of what we're doing.
Thank you. That ends that agenda item, so we'll move on to agenda item 9 to consider reports. And we have one report, a report of the Governance Director and Monitoring Officer in relation to Members' Allowance Scheme. And I understand, Mr Newton, you're going to speak on this agenda item.
Okay, thanks, Mr Mayor. This is a report that's arisen, unfortunately, because of a technical issue stemming from the Members' Allowance Scheme and the impact of the National Pay Award for staff. So members might recall there was a previous recommendation from the Independent Remuneration Panel that allowances in the scheme would be linked to the staff pay award every year, which is agreed nationally. And that was approved and became part of the scheme a year or so ago. Usually, as you might appreciate, the staff pay award is by way of a percentage uplift, and the recommendation from the IRP was that in the case of different percentages being agreed for staff across the pay scales, then the lowest rate that applied to staff would be applied to the Members' Allowance Scheme. Unfortunately, the proposals that were implemented didn't envisage at the time the position that's arrived at with this year's pay award for staff, which is that a flat rate payment of £1,925 has been agreed for all staff across the board, really. So there isn't a percentage uplift that can be applied. Just for clarity, the same offer was made to chief executives nationally. That offer's currently been rejected and not been agreed, so we can't say what the position is in terms of that, but generally across the board the flat rate payment applies to all of staff on all grades. You'll appreciate that we can't realistically implement a flat rate against members' allowances because there's a wide range of allowances, so it might theoretically work in terms of the members' basic allowance, but there's allowances for chairmanship of meetings, there's independent members' allowances, and if we applied a £1,925 uplift to those, obviously it would be a very significant increase. So we've had to go back to the IRP just for clarification of their intentions in these scenarios, really, basically how we cope with this year's increase for staff and how this is applied in future years. So there is a little more detail in the report, but the panel basically considered a number of options, but they reaffirmed their basic principle from the previous recommendation that the lowest percentage rate that applies to staff should apply to the uplift to the Members' Allowance Scheme. And if you calculate the percentage uplift as via the flat rate, then the lowest percentage that comes out is 1.49%. So essentially that's the recommendation from the IRP, and they also recommend that same principle should apply in future years if the same position arises. As I say, there's a little more detail in the report, Mr Mayor, but that's essentially the recommendation for consideration.
Thank you, Mr Newton. Do we have a proposer?
Clearly,
are you, Councillor Nightingale, are you proposing?
Yes, I propose that we accept the recommendations of the IRP.
I also need to ask if there is a seconder.
Mr Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Nightingale, do you wish to speak on this?
Yeah, clearly this is an incredibly complicated issue in terms of the award that was given to the staff, and quite clearly the calculation that they've made is based on the lowest percentage increase that staff will be getting. I think it was established in February that whatever that we would link the pay, the allowances of the councillors to the increases of the staff, and therefore that has been an established recommendation for each occasion that this applies. In addition to that, I think the principle has been widely accepted across the council that whatever the independent remuneration panel proposes, we should accept, on the basis that it isn't right that councillors should set their own pay and allowances. So therefore, Mr. Mayor, I propose that we go along with the recommendation that's produced in the report here, and I commend that to the council.
Thank you, Councillor Nightingale. Councillor Lanigan.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I know that councillors sat in this chamber have bills to pay, like everyone else. And actually, when this came in, what we were actually looking at, and we did put away just over 2% for our staff wages. What's actually happened, it's come in about 6.9. And so that's why our staff, and well deserved, they've got bills and families to look after as well. But it's unfortunate that some of the councillors here, you're going to get 1.4%, which is a very minimal amount. But that's what they've recommended for us going forward. And we did say in February of this year that we would accept that. And so I will absolutely second that going forward, and we'll see what happens in the years to come. For I know a lot of the councillors sat in this chamber that their allowances go to their charities and good causes, and that's always been the case of some of the councillors here. Different for quite a few of us because we have other income and other pensions that we can do that with going forward with, but it's difficult, and it means for the councillors that do this job here, tighten your belts a little bit more, because 1.4% isn't going to go very far at all. So that was because had we done that and gone with the 6.9 increase, it meant that the council had to find this money. So thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Lanigan. Does any other councillor wish to speak on this agenda item? Okay, so we've had a proposal by Councillor Nightingale, seconded by Councillor Lanigan, that we accept the proposal of the 1.49% increase for members' allowance. Do we have general agreement in that respect? Okay, thank you. I'll take that as agreed. Okay, thank you. Okay, moving on to item 10 is to appoint members, and nominations are sought for the position of the Vice Chair for Growth, Scrutiny and Improvement Committee. Do I have any nominations? Councillor Brown.
Could I please nominate Councillor Sue Jeffrey?
Do we have a seconder? Thank you. Do we have any other proposals? Councillor Brown.
Councillor Jeffrey already receives an SRA for a different committee, so we just thought with this being the best place to submit it, then there'd be no SRA to pay for that Vice Chair.
Can I just clarify that there isn't any other nominations? Okay, if that's the case, so we've had a proposal by Councillor Brown, seconded by Councillor Pallister, that Councillor Sue Jeffrey becomes Vice Chair of the Growth, Scrutiny and Improvement Committee. Can I have a show of hands, please? and that is carried. Thank you. Item agenda 11 is questions from members of the council, and we have one question this afternoon, and it is from Councillor Wells to Councillor Lanigan, Leader of the Council. Councillor Wells.
Thanks, Chair. Councillor Lanigan, considering that the written word can be misinterpreted, do you think that elected members should show responsibility when using social media, and always bear in mind that when something is posted on Facebook, Twitter, etc., it's on there forever?
Thank you, Councillor Wells, for your question. Yes, I do.
Councillor Wells, do you have a supplementary?
Mr. Mayor, thank you. Last week, the leader of one of the political groups commented on Facebook the following: that independent members of this council would not get elected if they nailed their political beliefs to the mast. They referred to the independent members as far right or far left, and said that some declined membership of the main parties as they would not make good councillors, and inferred that they don't turn up for meetings. On the same post, the leader of another political group commented that independent councillors are all secretly aligned with a particular party, and I quote, the blue one, and that they stand in wards that they would not win as Tories to target the number of the opposition parties. Councillor Lanigan, my question is, do you agree that these malicious lies are not only insulting to every independent elected member of this council, but it's also derogatory to the residents who voted for them?
Councillor Lanigan.
Thank you, Councillor Wells, for your supplementary. I'm quite shocked to hear that. There is a process to go through, and whether it's Facebook or whatever it is, whether it's Twitter or not, if this is brought to the attention of the monitoring officer, I'm quite sure that that will be dealt with. Thank you.
I've been advised no rules have been breached, Councillor Brown. I don't think you were actually named. You've highlighted probably that you are one of the councillors, but you weren't named. Rephrase, Councillor Brown. Councillor, let me speak. You need to stand up first. If it's a personal point of explanation, then you can request that. Would you like to request that?
The second comment was referring to not a political page or in any way political. So I would want to know why other councillors, leaders of other groups, are stalking my personal page to then bring it into a full council.
Thank you, Councillor Brown. I think you've made your point. We'll move on. Right. Councillor Wells, sit down, please. Okay. That concludes the meeting this afternoon. Thank you for your attendance and participation.